Hello and welcome to Williams Mullen Trending Now, an IP podcast, a legal podcast focused on providing innovative companies and investors with important and timely information concerning intangible assets such as patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. I'm your host, Ed White, and today I'll be joined by my partner and colleague, Amy Pruett, who is a member of our intellectual property practice group here at Williams Mullen, to discuss advertising and media trends to watch in 2023. Good morning, Amy. How are you doing today?
Doing great. This is such an exciting topic. I actually just finished teaching a music law class at UVA Law School, and the last conversation we had was about the metaverse, NFTs, and trends in that space. And you may have heard that NFTs are non-fungible tokens, and they've grown dramatically in the last couple of years across many different industries, from sports to entertainment to consumer products. And they're units of data that are stored on a blockchain and created to trace ownership of either physical things or more commonly digital media. NFT trading volume rose from 24.7 billion in 2021 to 24.8 billion in 2022. There are many traditional companies that began using NFTs, from NFL using NFTs as tickets for the Super Bowl to Starbucks and other companies. There was even a wine company I saw using NFTs for VIP tickets to get wine club memberships. So it's generated a number of legal disputes, as you can imagine, and they're frequently based on copyright. Some of the major issues that come up in litigation include what are the licenses involved in the NFT sales, as well as any royalties on secondary sales, and application of securities laws to NFTs and if they constitute trading under the securities laws. An NFT artist agreement is also a highly negotiated document between the creator of a piece of, usually a digital piece of artwork, and the NFT creator. And it addresses who owns the underlying artwork, what rights are licensed to the NFT creator, and how royalties are paid out between the artist and the NFT creator. Most commonly, rights on the underlying artwork are retained by the artist, although sometimes they might share in that arrangement with whoever is purchasing the NFT. So they can be paid out between the artist and the NFT creator. Consumer terms and notices are also important in NFT deals, and the NFT creator might need to think about privacy notice, creating terms of service, licensing terms of the digital collectibles, and any commercialization licenses. A recent case, one of the hot cases on the issue of use of NFTs and use of trademarks and brands, is the Meta Birkin case, which was brought by Hermes and against Rothschild after they minted an NFT that used these digital images of small versions of one of the famous Hermes brand bags, a Birkin's bag, and they called it Meta Birkins. So they were sued for trademark infringement based on releasing these non-fungible tokens. And ultimately, there was a verdict of liability in New York for trademark infringement, trademark dilution, and unlawfully cyber squatting on the metabirkins.com domain name. So there is a trend of these lawsuits showing that there's potential liability with using another party's brands with the NFT minting. Some of these cases can provide guidance for creators as well as for trademark owners as to what might lead to liability. An attorney who commented on the Meta Birkins case said this isn't exactly a space known for people who follow rules. So one of the takeaways that might be for thinking about NFTs in the advertising space is that it's an opportunity for expansion, while there are many legal caveats as well. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that on our one of our other podcasts on the IP team in coming months. So I know that there's some similar issues in the metaverse, as NFTs are also in the metaverse. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to those future podcasts you do with regard to NFTs. It's really a fascinating landscape. And you're absolutely right. There's overlap into the metaverse. So let's talk a little bit about what the metaverse is for some of our listeners. The metaverse is an immersive virtual reality space in which users can interact with computer-generated environments, and they can also interact with other users. Traditionally, the metaverse has been used for virtual reality or augmented reality gaming and activities, even shows, concerts, common workspaces, etc. And now that metaverse is expanding with brand owners utilizing the metaverse to expand their brands and their product lines. And to put some more sort of flesh on that, let me give you some statistics for what we're seeing. And these statistics come from Bankless Times. The market size for the metaverse is currently over $38.5 billion. So it's clearly not going anywhere, it's growing. There's over 400 million metaverse monthly active users. 51% of metaverse users are 13 years or younger. 74% of American adults are joining or are considering joining the metaverse. And by 2026, 25% of people will spend an hour or more a day in the metaverse, which is surprising, encouraging, I guess, perhaps for brand owners, perhaps sad in other ways. But nevertheless, the metaverse is definitely here to stay. And brand owners are planning to increase their use and development of the metaverse in 2023. So what are we expecting to see in 2023? Well, brand owners are certainly going to expand their immersive and personalized experiences in the metaverse. For example, some companies are already creating personalized experiences through virtual storefronts in the metaverse. What comes to mind are banks, for example. Banks are allowing their clients to enter the metaverse, to enter virtual branches for both, socializing as well as banking transactions. Likewise, in the real estate industry, we're seeing real estate agents who are providing virtual reality tours of properties that are then utilized in the acquisition of real estate. And in fact, I actually have one more stat on that. Over $500 million worth of real estate was purchased in the metaverse thus far. So you can see that that's a tangible example of how brand owners are using the metaverse for their products and services. I think what you're going to see is consumers are going to be able to explore merchandise and continue to obtain services in literally every industry through the metaverse in 2023. So what are some advertising and promotion legal takeaways we should share with our audience today? Well, first and foremost, you really need to ensure that you've properly drafted agreements to utilize the metaverse to expand your brand. What does that mean at the end of the day? Well, you should ensure that you're obtaining trademark registrations that provide enforcement tools for use of your trademarks in the metaverse. And you should ensure that that's properly addressed in your agreements with third parties. You should also ensure that you can safely use third-party trademarks in the metaverse for both realism and for comparative advertising purposes. So this may involve trademark license agreements and the proper vetting of third-party trademarks. Along those lines, Amy, certainly one of the things that we're going to see in the metaverse in 2023 are endorsements. So I wonder if you could add a little bit of detail for our listeners on that front.
Sure. And yes, endorsements have been around for a while, ever since there's been commercial advertising, but they've seen an explosion in the metaverse and in social media. And the FTC actually provides some endorsement guidelines for advertisers to reflect some of the truth in advertising principle that endorsements must be honest and not misleading. So an endorsement must reflect the honest opinion of the endorser, and it can't be used to make any claim that the product's marketer couldn't legally make. So some common questions that come up are, can the endorsement guides apply to social media? And yes, truth in advertising is important in any form of media, whether it's been around for decades like television and magazines, or is relatively new like blogs and social media. Is the FTC monitoring bloggers and social media influencers? Generally not, but if there are concerns about possible violations of the FTC Act, then the FTC is going to evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. If law enforcement becomes necessary, the focus is usually on the advertisers or their ad agencies and public relations firms. The FTC also conducts investigations and brings cases involving endorsements made on behalf of an advertiser under Section 5 of the FTC Act, which generally prohibits deceptive advertising. So what if somebody uploads a video to YouTube that shows somebody reviewing several products? Should it disclose that they got them from an advertiser? Generally, yes. The guidance for videos is the same for websites or any other blogs, that if you're advertising or showing a product, then there needs to be some type of disclosure that they are getting something in return for that disclosure or that endorsement. So the takeaway from that is that if you get anything in return for the endorsement, such as money, products, free meals, it all needs to be disclosed or on advertisements. The guides also provide that it's important to be upfront with consumers. These are an important tool for advertisers, and they can be very persuasive to consumers, but they still have to follow the truth in advertising, in that any claims that are being made in the advertising are not misleading. And it's helpful to think about this both in the metaverse as well as traditional TV, print, radio, blogs, and any type of word of mouth marketing. In a recent matter involving a fashion retailer, the FTC determined that they were prohibited from suppressing customer reviews of its products, and they were required to actually pay $4.2 million to settle these FTC allegations that the company had blocked negative reviews of its products from being posted to the website. So the takeaway there is that if you are getting reviews that are negative, don't suppress them, even if you don't agree with them. The FTC also issues orders to social media, video streaming platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and others regarding fraud and misleading ads, scams, and so forth. They've issued orders to about 8 social media and video streaming platforms recently, seeking information on how the companies are scrutinizing and restricting paid commercial advertising that might be deceptive or expose consumers to fraudulent healthcare products, financial scams, counterfeits, and fake goods or other types of fraud. So the takeaway there is that the metaverse and social media are rampant with scams. In 2022, there was $1.2 billion in fraud claims alone. Ed, we've talked in recent podcasts about the NIL and athletes deals. Can you give us a feel for how some of these metaverse issues and some of the truth in advertising issues apply and cross over into some of the NIL deals?
Yeah, absolutely, Amy. And I invite our listeners to go and listen to those podcasts. When we're talking about NIL, we're talking about the NCAA's policy now on name, image, and likeness for their athletes. And again, you can listen to our podcast, but essentially the NIL policy allows for collegiate athletes now to obtain a stream of commerce or compensation for the use of their image and likeness and name when it comes to the endorsement of products, et cetera. And so when you're thinking about athletes, honestly, you can really think about them as influencers. And in fact, there are many NCAA athletes who have become very adept influencers on the various social media outlets. So when we're looking at the metaverse and NIL and athletes and influencers, how is that going to look in 2023? Well, as we were discussing earlier, it wouldn't be at all shocking to see an influencer or an athlete that's promoting or endorsing an athlete within virtual reality or augmented reality. I can certainly envision, for example, an NCAA collegiate athlete who is a golfer providing a demonstration of golf clubs in the metaverse for customers. Likewise, any other product or service that can be advertised in the metaverse through influencers and athletes is certainly something we'll likely see in 2023. So because influencers and athletes are likely going to be a popular method, there are some things our clients and listeners should think about with regard to legal takeaways. For one, they should ensure that their influencer agreements and those agreements that are in place with NIL athletes cover their branding guidelines and how the endorsements should be provided to the consuming public. They should also ensure that influencers and endorsers are properly complying with third-party terms of use when entering the metaverse on an individual basis. And by that, I really mean that if an endorser or an NIL athlete is going to use the metaverse or some other platform on an individual basis, then they certainly need to ensure that they are complying with the terms of use such that there won't be negative blowback on the brand they're representing within that platform or metaverse. Brand owners should also ensure that the actions they ask influencers to undertake don't run afoul of trade rules. You've talked a little bit about that earlier, but we want to make sure, obviously, that we're not entering into unfair competition or violating other NCAA policies in the event that they're using student athletes that would reflect negatively, obviously, on the influencer or athlete and on the brand. So those are just a few more things to think about as we envision athletes and influencers will be used in 2023.
Thanks for that, Ed. Well, that will wrap up our discussion on advertising and media trends to watch in 2023. I'd like to thank Ed for joining me on Trending Now, an IP podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please contact us. You can also visit our intellectual property practice page at williamsmullen.com/IP. There you can find out more about our team as well as past episodes of this podcast and legal alerts. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified when our next episode posts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.